Hey y'all, happy Wednesday. Hope you all had a good week so far. If you haven't already, I need you to open up the notes. They're on the first page of this module. You'll need those today and then the rest of this week as well. We're going to fill in part of that notes today, another part tomorrow, and then the last part on Friday. And then Friday you'll turn those in. So be sure that you keep track of where you keep it. Save it on your desktop somewhere where you'll be able to access it again if you need it. And without further ado, let's get started with the next two dynasties that we're going to talk about, and that is the Sui and Tang. So there are some terms that you need to know that are written on your paper. And basically, these are things that we are going to talk about that you may not know what they mean. So the first one is medieval, and that's just relating to the Middle Ages or referring to something that's old or primitive. A census, which is just an official count of a country's population. The Silk Road, which is a series of trade routes connecting China to Europe. A golden age, which is a period where art, skills, science, and other cultural elements are at their height. And then the last one is one we haven't seen before, and that's called bureaucracy. And all that is it's a system of government in which most of the important decisions are made by state officials rather than by elected representatives. So the first dynasty we need to talk about is the Sui, and that was the first dynasty to unite China after the Han Dynasty fell. And if you noticed, it was around for 38 years, give or take, so not very long. And it was led by a man named Emperor Wendi, which is this guy right here. He attempted to restore many of the old Han Dynasty ideas that you guys researched and we talked about, such as laws based on Confucian teachings, that civil service, that kind of thing. There were three different emperors during this dynasty. In 38 years, there were three of them. Wendi, first one, Yangdu, and then Gongdu. This guy was known for being a terrible person and being corrupt, which is among the many reasons why he was emperor for less than a year before he was killed. And shortly after he was killed, the dynasty kind of, ate it in a sense. Part of it was this guy was just really bad at his job. So they actually did quite a bit in those 38 short years. They created and established the first national census in China to simply keep track of how many people lived in the empire, tax purposes, that kind of thing. We still do censuses in the U.S. We do one of those every 10 years, and they actually did one this year. And all that does, at least for us, is it keeps track. It counts how many people live in the country, and then it keeps track of, helps decide where federal money goes from certain programs. So they created that. They established a strong administration network with local administrators to ensure stability in the empire. They embraced Buddhist teachings and created numerous statues of the Buddha, which are displayed across the empire. And it's also seen as the start of a golden age for art, science, and culture. Notice I didn't say it was a golden age, it was the start of one. That's because a lot of the golden age stuff actually happens in Tang Dynasty. So they came after the Sui, and they lasted from 621 to 907 CE. So Li Yuan was the first man who founded the dynasty. And their big thing was they said about expanding China's influence over neighboring countries such as Korea up here, Vietnam, Mongolia, and then out into Central Asia over here. So they kind of spread out. And a lot of it was done through military expansion, obviously. They had a pretty large army. A lot of it, though, centered around their controlling and maintaining the safety of the Silk Road, all these different trade networks running from China to Constantinople to Rome, and so on. So part of their influence was military based. A lot of it, though, was centered around their economic influence by controlling the Silk Road and other areas along it. They actually did some more achievement stuff too. They're often looked at as the same era in Golden Age because of how close together they were. The Tang did have some unique achievements, though, that weren't part of the Sui at all. They created numerous civics improvements, so making sure people know how their government works. They also did some infrastructure projects, such as the Grand Canal. They continued those civil service exams that were developed by the Han Dynasty. And it's seen as a golden age for artwork and metalworking as well. And one thing that I didn't know until I was working on this is that they were the only Chinese dynasty to have a woman rule as empress for an extended period of time, and that was Empress Wu. So they were the only dynasty that I've seen that had a woman as empress at one point. They also accidentally invented gunpowder while trying to find a potion for immortality. So some Chinese scientists were working on ways to create something that they could take that would allow them to live forever, and instead they invented gunpowder, which apparently is just a combination of charcoal, sulfur, and niter. I didn't know that, but apparently they found out that if you add the sulfur to it, it becomes flammable. And they originally saw this not as like a weapon per se. They saw this as a way to create what ended up becoming fireworks. So fun fact for you all, since we're about to end this here, is that China, under the Tang and the next dynasty we'll talk about tomorrow, invented gunpowder and fireworks. So we can thank the Chinese for our 4th of July fireworks every year. So that is actually all I have for you all today. So be sure to hang on to the notes that you took. I have this PowerPoint on its own without the video later on in the module that you all can access if you miss something. But we will use those notes again tomorrow and Friday as well. So be sure you hang on to them. Save them somewhere where we can find them again, because we will be filling in the next part of those tomorrow. So that being said, I hope you all have a good Wednesday. If you guys have any questions over missing assignments, whatever, let me know, because those are the due date for those is coming up. It's next Friday. So if you have any missing assignments you want to turn in to get your grade up, those are due next Friday. So make sure you guys are keeping track of those. And like always, if you have questions over it or need me to unlock one, let me know. Other than that, I hope you all have a good rest of the day, and I will see you all tomorrow.